Jordan, I saw you put something in the chat. Are you able to unmute and tell us what happened?
Yeah, so there's some ups and downs. We had one guy quit yesterday who was a journeyman, but we did hire a new guy that has experience in estimating and sales and things of that nature, which we were able to get him in a good incentive-based position and hopefully takes a lot of weight off my shoulders and frees up a lot of my time having him on board.
That's awesome. Excited about that. Congratulations. Um, I know last week we talked quite a bit about like salespeople and merit-based pay and, how to pay salespeople and stuff. Did you take any of that, Jordan, when like considering this role or?
So basically I worked out like an hourly plus percentage of revenue um, pay for him. I was pushing more towards the straight commission, but he wanted the hourly plus. So I basically gave him two options with that.
That's great.
And I basically made my KPIs. So combination of um, average ticket close rate and monthly sales to align with his commission to get him to the amount he wants to make per year. So I basically worked backwards from the amount he wants to make per year to set his KPIs. And it's $83,000 a month would be his goal, which puts him at $1 million a year.
That's awesome. Yeah, and there's really no right or wrong there when it comes to if you want to hire on a salesperson completely commission or if you want to do hourly rate. It'd be a lower hourly rate and a lower commission. There's really no right or wrong. It's kind of whatever your preference is. Or I loved what you did, Jordan, where, he had a preference, so you gave him options and made it work with what you guys are wanting to do. The main thing is we just have to have really set KPIs. What does he need to do in order to succeed in that role and to hit those commissions, which it sounds like you're establishing, which is awesome. So keep us in the loop on how that goes. And it sounds like when we meet later today, we might be, talking about getting another technician in.
Yeah. So the downside is that, now I've had two journeyman electricians that I've taught estimating, I've taught sales, and I've had two now that have basically back to back been like, seems like I figured this thing out. I'm just going to go start my own company. And so that sucks when you invest the time, effort, energy. They're a producing member of your team, and they're basically like, thanks for all the help. See ya.
Yeah, that hurts. That
But
hurts. I don't know if we
let
can
them,
get a show of hands of who's been in that spot. Anybody else felt that? Yeah, I'm seeing some hands. And I'm going to quote Robert here, which I wish he was here so he could know that I do pay attention. But one thing that Robert always says is he's like, yep, that happens. That's just part of running a business. But the alternative is what if you didn't train that person? And they stayed. They didn't leave, So it's like you have to train them. You have to train them how to estimate, how to run a job. Whether they stay with you forever or they leave, the alternative is you have somebody on your team who sucks, And so it sucks. It's something that, it's okay to lick your wounds about, be upset. But there's really no way around it. It's just part of it. High Place Construction. I don't know if I know your name, but I see your hand up. If you would love to unmute, tell us who you are, what you got going.
Well, this is Richard. Yeah, when you lose guys like that, and I've been through that before in other things I've done, although this is a startup for us, High Place is. However, one thing that we used to try and do as much as we could. Now, I don't know where Redmond is on any of this in terms of, good, bad, or indifferent. But
Yeah.
years ago, what we used to try and do with those guys, project managers especially, that would basically get to a point where they wanted to go out on to the greener pastures. They thought is having a good NDA, not disclosure agreement. Sorry,
A
the
non-compete.
non-compete. Thank you. Where they basically, at least at that point, you can't really do that if a guy is getting ready to leave. And it's a little harder to do that when you guys had guys that are with you for a while. But I
Mm-hmm.
think it's a really good idea in your hiring practices to have an agreement there that basically, where they know, hey, we're going to invest in you. At the same point in time, we're not investing in you to start a competition. And, so some of that, I think, in my experience, it won't curb it 100% for sure. Because if you got a guy that's going to decide he wants to go do it, he's going to go do it. And they are very hard to enforce legally, even if you have a very
Right.
good one drafted up. But I think it does set some potential guardrails in there from guys that might be over a period of time thinking they might want to go do something like that. Because then you've set that expectation up front that, that's really not acceptable.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll let it go at that. But those are my thoughts for whatever they're worth.
Well, we align with those. Especially non-competes are really hard to enforce. They are. And so if you do have one, they are a little bit kind of like arbitrary. Where I do see a benefit in it is setting expectations, which I'm big on, is setting those expectations. And so even if you don't have a non-compete, but inside of your write-up policy, which we do recommend everybody has, you can have in your write-up policy expectations for them of, hey, if you were ever to leave, you can't take any equipment, you can't take any customers, like you're just setting those expectations of what is and isn't, expected of them. Again, you really can't enforce it other than letting them go, but I do like the idea of setting expectations. I wish non-competes were more legit than they really are. They are hard to enforce, but I do love the idea of adding it to your write-up policy or when you're bringing somebody on, setting those expectations. And it doesn't have to be when you bring somebody on. At any point, any time of the year, you can go over your write-up policy again. You can edit it and have everybody sign it. So don't limit yourself to, oh, well, I can't do this. They've been here forever. You can. So I think that's great advice. Rick, I see your hand up.
Hey, yes, good morning.
Good
So I
morning.
got you that beach background right there.
I
I'm
love
back in
it.
the office, but you know, before we started our company, I worked for a plumbing company, and they produced plumbers that would do side work and learn how much money they could make on the side. And they created a culture of, hey, as soon as I get my plumbing license, I'm gone. And
Mhm.
every single one of their employees, even like right now, they've got 5 or 6 employees, and every one of them are talking about whenever I go out on my own. And the owner, super nice guy, he's the one that taught me into plumbing, going into plumbing. But he would promote, hey, go do the side work. And we would be on jobs, and they would say, hey, the client would say, hey, do you do side work? And I'm saying, no, we don't. That's a conflict of interest for us,
Mhm.
with my boss. But then my coworkers, and sometimes the sons and son-in-laws of my boss would say, yeah, we can do this on the
Oh
side.
no.
And so they created a culture of, hey, you do work on the side, and that's what they're producing. And they can't keep employees because as soon as they get licensed, they're gone. Every
Yeah.
single, like 100% turnover rate. They've got nobody that's been with the business for several. They stay 4 years and they're gone. And I'm
Mm.
gonna tell you something. I think that has helped us is to let the employees know, hey, all that money that you're bringing in, we're spending what is it, $8,000 or $9,000 a month just in advertising.
Yeah.
And I think that you can also get to a size where your employees realize, hey, I can't afford to I can't afford this, you know, especially if you've got children and stuff like that. If you don't have a good lump sum to get started. But I think some of it, we're going to lose ours and stuff like that. I get it. I've got an HVAC guy that's planning on going out on his own, and we know it. But I think building that culture of, you know, not promoting side work just because, you know, it's helping them, and then give them as much benefits as possible. You know, that's what we've done. You know, every Friday we feed our guys breakfast. You know, we try to make it, hey, I don't want to leave this job for even another job, much less starting out on my own. We feed them breakfast every Friday, big breakfast. We talk about wins. No, we're not doing no house cleaning. And then every 3 months we do a big event for the whole company wide. You know, next Friday, it's crawfish. We're doing a huge crawfish boil.
Nice.
New office. And so we're, you know, we've done Top Golf, bowling, stuff like that. So I think,
Fun.
you know, I think it helps building the culture. I think we're still going to lose some along the way, but
Of course.
Definitely not promoting, hey, go do some side work, you know. And I tell everybody when they hire on, hey, that's not what we are. And as soon as I hear that you're going out on your own, we're that's big conflict of interest. We're not even going. I'm not going to stick around for you to collect the data.
Yeah. I love that, setting expectations, you know, and holding people accountable to it. I also love the golden handcuffing where it's like, hey, look at all these benefits that we provide to you. Look how much money you're able to make with us. And when you leave work, you leave work. You don't have to worry about leads. You don't have to pay for them. You know, like you go out, you do your jobs, you get paid for the work that you produce. And so I think that's great advice, Rick. And like you said, you're definitely going to have people that leave. That's nature of the beast. You know, all you can do is set expectations and really celebrate and reward the people who do stay and do a good job. Bob, I see your hand up. I don't know if you have something on this or a new question, but would love for you to unmute and tell us what your thoughts are.
Hello.
Hey.
Hey, just a quick comment. I was going to say, kind of like you guys already said, but possibly overpay your guys. I have some guys that have worked for me for quite a while, and I kind of pay them above scale a little bit, and I think they know it, and
Yeah.
could possibly be a way to retain guys. And then I think you guys also probably have different ways of giving them more incentives. Maybe we could talk about that a little bit. Some of the incentives to stay, whether it's profit sharing or whatever. Just I think my my main comment was overpaying them, trying to retain them. That's pretty much it.
Yeah. Yeah. You want to sweeten up the gig. You want to make them want to stay. But again, that a caveat to that is I never want to see somebody overpaying somebody just because they're scared of losing them and they're not producing what they need to produce to earn that pay. You know, like we need to have a hiring system in place where you can hire quickly and fire quickly. You know, we want to reward those people who are doing really well, who we really want to see stay because they're doing a great job. I don't like rewarding people just because we are scared, you know, of losing them type of thing, or like, oh my gosh, I don't think I could find somebody better. But I totally agree, Bob, where, hey, if they're doing a great job, pay them, keep them, you know, golden handcuff them.
Yeah,
Totally
maybe
agree.
meet it in the middle somewhere. Got to find that happy spot.
Yes. I love setting KPIs around it too, you know, really letting them know, hey, what is going to get you to that pay, or what do we need to see in order for you to be succeeding in your job, and we can pay you more for it. So
yeah. I had said earlier that I bought 2 bikes, and my son went out on his bike, and the other guy that's been with me for 8 years, after work, they did jump out and take a little ride around the block on my bike. So I don't know. That was kind of cool.
That is cool.
Except for I don't want my guy to hurt himself.
No, it's like, I'm not responsible if you wreck this thing.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. but love seeing that. I love
Mhm.
seeing what Rick did with, bringing in breakfast, having something
Yeah.
every 3 months. Those things do matter to people.
Mhm.
It's good for
Yeah.
team building. It shows them that you care. I love that type of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. What other wins, or we can jump into questions, or combination of the two, do we got going on today? Either raise a hand, put it in the chat. I know it's a bit of a smaller group today. Travis just reminded me that it's spring break week. So I don't know if people are, juggling kids or on vacations. But what questions, thoughts, concerns do we have going on today?
I got one, Nicole.
Tell us, Jordan, what's happening?
So kind of our struggle that we've always had since inception is handling a schedule where as an electrical company, there's always emergencies that pop up. And then you've always got your, your scheduled work that's been bid out that you're planning on doing.
Mm-hmm.
And then like we're in example of where we're in right now, but this always comes up is a house got hit by lightning and basically needs a total revamp immediately. It's like an insurance claim. So it's like, how do we navigate? Well, we've got customers that are on a schedule, and does anybody have like floater guys where you have one guy who kind of just floats and help? I mean, this is my thought, and I don't know if anybody's used something like this where you have one guy that's basically a floater and he helps people until an emergency pops up. Like he helps other crews until an emergency pops up, and then he's the guy that jumps out as on emergency calls. I think it's tough to like keep guys on the job doing work. Like that's my goal, is to keep guys installing work for 8 hours a day and not have guys just sitting around waiting for an emergency call to come in. So I don't know if anybody's in a similar situation, whether that's plumbing, HVAC, electrical, where, how do you handle a full schedule and then emergencies? Because what ends up happening is it ends up being me, and then I can't get anything done. And I'm looking at my desk right now and I'm like, oh my God. Just the stuff that the office is piled on here, like you need to do all this, but when I've got a tool belt on, I can't do any of this stuff.
Rick, would love your advice here.
Well, there's no advice. I'm struggling with the same thing. So, something that we are struggling with, our electricians have come up with a schedule where our lead electrician says, hey, this is our schedule for the month of whatever, who's going to be on call for the weekend, stuff like that. Then same way with the HVAC, which we've only got 2 HVAC guys, so they just, flip flop around. But then our plumbers, we are having a huge problem trying to get plumbers to take emergency calls on the weekend. We're big family. I'm all about your family. Go spend time with your family on the weekends. But I'm the only one that's not spending time with my family on the weekends. So, it's kind of, and we pushed it all the way to the point that Scott, my business partner, said, he said, hey, I'll just make it a little bit plainer. A couple of weeks ago in a house cleaning meeting, he said, it's the plumbers. The plumbers are not stepping up to the plate. And what we've done is we've given, it's $189 service fee for us to come out on a weekend emergency call, and our plumbers get $100 of that on top of their clock in when you leave your house and all of that, just to make it a little bit easier for them. But we're having the same issue as far as, a lot of times I'm working and we need to hire another plumber actually, just so that it can relieve me to do the bidding and stuff like that. There's bids that's not getting done because I'm, like Jordan was saying, we got our hands in it, so
Mhm.
I'd love to figure out, we've done incentive pay too. So the incentive pay is been big, but the issue is, and I've thought about taking it away, the incentive pay for the guys that, hey, you know what, if you refuse to take a weekend call, or 1 weekend a month is all we ask. I don't know. We're having the same struggle. So anybody's wisdom would be great.
Hey, I got
Adam.
to chime in on that
Yeah.
from two different perspectives, right? So when I was an employee, I worked for a refrigeration company, right? And the owner wanted us to pick up on call. And at first, he was training me, right? And at first, I was okay with it. But once I was trained up, I wasn't okay with it. And the reason I wasn't okay with it was because there was no incentive to pick up on call, right? And that's one of the things I told him. He said, "Hey, well, we all switch around." I said, "Well, what's the point of me picking on call for you? It's your company. There's no extra incentive here for me." I'm like, "I get it. You want me to work overtime?" I said, "But overtime's not mandatory." I said, "Now, the last company I worked with, there was an incentive. If we were on call, we knew we were going to be on call that week. The incentive was $150 to pick up on call."
Mhm.
And what I was trying to tell him was, whether I worked or I didn't get paid. There was no incentive to be on call that week. And so I already knew that I had my business on the side, which had nothing to do with what he did. And I told him my weekend I used to, so I can, try to get ahead and do my business, which you already knew of. Now, you want me to stay home, whether we get a call or not, and not be incentivized for it? I said, that ain't happening. And he wasn't happy. And as soon as it got slow, I was the first one to go. But it also, if you look back, he has no employees now because he's had the same issue, right? So one of the things I started doing when I was looking at hiring a while back ago, and I was actually doing the hiring process, I said, "Hey, we've been on Monday through Friday with weekends, whenever they pop up, right? However, this is going to be more of a Tuesday through Saturday. It's more of an expectation now that someone has to work on a Saturday. Sunday is kind of like everybody else, is like a family day. So, I didn't really push on Sundays, but Saturdays, I say, you know what, if we want to start having people work on Saturdays, you almost have to change the schedule around on the guys." And I mean, I worked with companies that had shifts, 3 different shifts. They had a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, which were 4 10s. They had a split shift during the week, and then they had the second half where they would work Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but they all alternated, right? So it just depends on what works for you guys on where you're at, but there's different ways to look at it. But you have to do a little bit of a takeaway, because right now it's getting harder with employees. Nobody wants to do anything just because it's their job anymore, in my view.
Yeah. Yeah. So a few different thoughts. One is kind of going back to Jordan's original question. It's definitely okay to have somebody who's kind of in training. Maybe they're a floater where they are with another technician throughout most days, where they're a helper, they're able to do stuff. And then if we get an emergency call or something, they can float in. Like that's definitely a thing. I do see emergency calls working really well. What makes it work well is, one, we have to set expectations. It's not a voluntary thing. We have to set expectations of who is on what week. If you need to swap weeks with somebody else, fine. That just needs to be agreed upon by both parties and communicated, but we've got to set expectations. Everybody is on call 1 week a month or whatever it is. Or maybe it's, if you have a big enough team, it could be every other month, and if you're going to know what week you're on, and if you need to swap with somebody, you can. It just needs to be agreed upon, communicated. And then I really like, and I can't remember who mentioned it, Rick, it may have been you, where for emergency calls, you should absolutely be charging an emergency fee. So let's say, hey, it's a $300 fee. That's just for us. We're now paying our guys overtime. They're coming out at the end of the day, sacrificing time with their kids to get to your job. And you give half of that to the technician who runs it, And again, we're not volunteering, there's a set guy each week who's going to be doing it. And then they get half of whatever that emergency is for that call, plus their overtime. And so again, set expectations. This isn't a voluntary thing, it's mandatory. And then absolutely have an incentive where they're getting that pay. Richard, I would love if you have a question or advice on this too. Would love for you to chime in, unmute.
Yeah. So I don't know what trade he actually is in. I'm assuming maybe electrical or something.
Electrician.
Yeah. So I come from HVAC refrigeration world as well. Practically my whole upbringing, my whole career, I've been in the union, and how we did it. I mean, whether it's union or non-union, it really doesn't matter, honestly, but each company that I've ever talked to, how normally done it is there's an on-call rotation. I know it's be hard to have an on-call rotation if you're like a really small company and you only have like one journeyman and an apprentice, right? So that's hard to do. But I mean, if you're scaled up and you have 10 guys, 6 guys, and majority of them are journeymen, then an on-call rotation would work. And what was pretty much mandatory and was common for all companies that I found out was you get 2 hours for Saturday and 2 hours for Sunday just for being on standby. So technically you get 4 hours of pay.
You're still going to get paid.
Yeah, for being on standby on Saturday and Sunday. But then you're also, any call after hours is overtime, port to port. So the time you get the call and you, put your boots on, you're getting paid until you come back and close out that ticket. And that's, an incentive there. Obviously, wherever you draw the line, when you become a bigger company, you almost got to make it mandatory, And I say man, because that's going to help you out as a company and provide that service. Because if you drop the ball and the owner is the one that's always got to go take the calls, then that's not cool,
No, nor is it sustainable.
Yes. So, that relieves the burden off the owner and the company, knowing, hey, we got an on-call schedule. And then, like you said, we had ours printed out 6 months in advance. Yes, life happens, but it's there. You can swap out with another guy. Hey, you take my week, I'll take yours, or whatever.
Yeah.
There was never a hiccup. Like, no one squawked at it. Yeah, it sucks that you have to be on call, but at least in advance and you can plan for that week. Like, hey, we can't do this, or I'm doing this, or whatever. And it seemed pretty flawless, honestly. Like, that's the incentive. You get paid 4 hours for the weekend for being on standby and overtime. And then during the weekday, like, in the peak season and you're booming, I wouldn't, have, depending on your workload, is have 1 or 2 guys that are not fully booked all day. Maybe they're booked half of a day, and one guy, then they're able to pull off. Because it sucks to start a job, pull off, and then do it. Yeah. You actually lose money because then you got to go back and restart and start over. So it's just like, have those floaters not fully committed to all day, and then that's what I've seen in work.
I am so glad you mentioned that, because what I'm a big believer in, and if anybody wants to correct me, you are more than welcome to, is not calling customers who are already on the schedule and pushing them back for an emergency job. Unless it's like a friend, family member, somebody who like communicated to you that they're not worried, most people take off work so they can be at home to be there. So the last thing that we want to do is take on this high ticket emergency job because we're excited about the revenue, excited about the opportunity, but then we're screwing this customer who's loyal to us and has been on our schedule. So really want to avoid as best we can. I'd rather have a floater situation like what you mentioned, Richard, where you have somebody who can fill that gap because they aren't fully booked out. Or you have a rotation where, yes, we can get to that job today, but we're going to get to it after hours, and it's going to be the person who's on call who's going to go out and do it, and we're going to charge an emergency fee. This is really good feedback, team. Really appreciate it.
And one thing that I like that a couple people kind of made the point of, but especially when you're talking about after hours or weekends calls, having the incentive there, not just for, hey, you make more, you get a portion of the dispatch fee, but hey, we're going to compensate you just for having the availability. So any plans that you delayed, moved around there's built-in incentive for keeping your schedule clear this weekend, being available so that when we call, you can dispatch out. It's separate from the work being done. So it's like you're compensating for the availability, but then you also have a built-in incentive for work that gets done over that period of time. So I think kind of having that just adjusting maybe the incentive structure there as well, so that it's kind of guaranteed. So somebody that doesn't clear the deck for Saturday and Sunday, and yeah, they got the 150 for the emergency fee, but there was no calls, so really they didn't get anything out of the deal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think one suggestion was, hey, no matter what, they got paid 4 hours,
Yes.
no matter if they ran calls or not. I think that's great. I think you can also do a flat fee of, hey, if it's your week on that pay period, you throw $300 extra on your check, whether you did calls or not. It was your week. You were on it. You were there. You were ready. Not your fault we didn't have calls. You kept your that week open for us. And so we want to reward you for it. What other questions, thoughts, concerns, grievances? Richard.
Yes, just got a question to bounce off. Maybe you can help us out, point us in the right direction or whatever. But this is year 3, and we're actually looking to hire our first guy. So it's getting to that point where it's hard to juggle, right now, and especially this summer's approaching, and I build up enough clientele to, obviously you have the shoulder seasons, HVAC, spring, fall, autumn, whatever. Really, no one's running, but it's we're picking up the workload, and it's getting a little stressful. So what I've done in the past was, I know other contractors that that are willing to help me out for labor and stuff like that, but coordinating with their schedule and my customers and my schedule was a little stressful, so making it work, especially if somebody needed something done right away. So my question is, obviously hiring somebody is like, where do we get an employee handbook? Or not, obviously I don't want you to provide it to me, but point me in the direction, like the procedures and things like that. Like, it's always been me. So like now, obviously, I live in wonderful California where there's a lot of red tape and lines like that. So just wanted to know where to go and what to do in that aspect.
Love it. Well, one, congratulations. Congratulations to being to that point. That's huge. Stacy, if you're willing to make a copy and share that handbook, I'm sure there are people here who would snag that from you. We have a write-up policy. Travis, I don't know if that's what you're grabbing right now, but if you want to throw that into the chat too. And I am a big believer, one, if you want to do a handbook, if you already have one, great. All for it. Stacy just said ChatGPT helped a lot and helped with things to your state. And just, to make it clear, anything that we give you guys, if you want to be legally clad, you're going to have to figure it out for your state. We don't have a template that is good for every single state. I wish we did, but that's just not the reality of it. We've got clients all over the US and Canada. But I really like the idea of a write-up policy. And Richard, I would start there. I think a lot of people get stuck in the, oh my gosh, I've never hired before. And so like what all needs to go into that? And they tend to overthink it. You don't really need much. You know, you need to figure out if they're going to be a 1099 or a W-2. There's really no right or wrong there. You can work that out with your coach. And that's just the tax form that they fill out. You'll need to have your workers' comp or whatever it is, what insurance, and then have a write-up policy. Travis is going to throw that template in the chat here. And with the write-up policy, we want to keep it really simple, bullet point based, you know, where these are your fireable offenses, these are your write-up offenses. This is the policy that we hold people to. This is how it works. In that write-up policy, I also like to include a callback policy, meaning if you do faulty work and you get called back out, you're going to be doing that on your own time. With you being in the lovely, beautiful state of California, Richard, you might have to say at minimum wage instead of on your own time. I know some people in the Midwestern states can get away with that. So that would be my recommendation. You just need to figure out, do you want to be W-2, 1099? What tax forms go along with either? W-2 form. And then you're just going to run the Redmond growth hiring process through Indeed, which your coach can totally do for you. And just embrace, Richard, it might take going through a few people before you find the right one. That's nothing wrong to you. And I'd make sure that you establish some KPIs. We've got a tracking document for technicians on your guys' master tracking Redmond growth document, where we can keep track of how many jobs they get sent out on, how many they close, what they collect, average tickets, you know, all of that, how many callbacks they have. You want to make sure that you're keeping track of that core data, because that's the data that you'll make decisions off of and the data that you'll train somebody off of as well.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. I didn't know you guys already had all that. Probably should have expected that from you guys. You guys have it all. So I appreciate it. Yeah, it's definitely a huge, you know, milestone goal for us.
Huge.
Happened. So, you know, it's yeah.
Yeah, that's exciting, Richard. And again, it might take going through a few before you find the right one. Don't let that make you lose faith in the company or the position or the role. You know, it just can take a few. So stay with it, be patient. All you can do is have the right things in place. The KPIs, the service call checklist, the write-up policy, hold people accountable to it. It just might take going through a few before you find the right one. Doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong, you know, or that the role isn't going to work.
For sure. Thank you.
Yeah. Fletcher, I see your question in the chat here. I don't know if you're in a position to be able to unmute and talk about it. If not, I can read it. Okay, you're not. That's fine. So Fletcher put in the chat ideas to reduce the responsibility of the founder and ease them into retirement. Big question. Definitely question on everybody's mind, even if it's far, far in the back. A lot that goes into that. Travis, I know I hate kind of calling on you like this, but could you grab the Eisenhower matrix spreadsheet, the delay, dilute, or the
Yeah.
where you delegate? You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Cool. So I think the first step to this, or a really good place to start, because again, this is a big question. There's a lot that goes into it. There's not like a one answer solution to it. But this spreadsheet that Travis is sharing here on the screen, and he'll put it into the chat as well, I think is a really good place to start as the business owner. So what you would do is you would just go into here and you would list all of your current activities. So all of the responsibilities that you're responsible for as a business owner. Vomit it on there, you know, really think about it. Put everything that you do on there, everything that's necessary that you're currently responsible for. And then once you have all of those duties, you want to go in here and you want to place it into a quadrant. So every single one of your duties is going to fall into one of these four quadrants that we have on the top here. Reduce, schedule, delegate, declutter. And so as a business owner, what you want to be able to do is to say, hey, what out of all of these duties could I reduce? What could I schedule so that it's easier? You know, like maybe when I go to retire, I'm still going to be looking at financials once a month. That's something I'd schedule, you know, or maybe I'm still doing the hiring. That's something I would schedule weekly. So what do I schedule? What can I reduce? Meaning maybe I hire an office manager so that their phone's blowing up all day and not mine. And then the only things that get to me are the things that really need to get to me. You know, that would be a quadrant 1, a reduce. Quadrant 3 would be, hey, this is an activity that needs to be done, but I don't need to be the one doing it. And so I need to delegate that. And for things that fall into quadrant 3, typically what that means is we need to build a system for it. You know, a checklist, a Loom video, a process so that you can hand that over to somebody, trust that they know how to do it, and then all you're having to do is verify that it's getting done. And then quadrant 4 is declutter. There might be certain things that you have on your list that just aren't necessary anymore. You know, these would be things like maybe every week you've been going to your, you know, Better Business Bureau group or whatever it is, you know, in your area, and you've never gotten a single thing from it, but you feel like you need to go do it. That might be something we can just get out of there, you know. Or maybe it's, hey, once a week, I find myself spending 30 minutes reading through my negative reviews and getting upset about it. Maybe that's something we just need to delete off the list. It's not something that's important. We don't need to be doing it. And so that's where I would start, is with this, because from this, Fletcher, it will tell us where do we need to go next. Is it we need to hire an office manager? Is it we need to build a process so we can delegate some of these duties? You know, this is where I would start, because it's going to send us to where we need to go in order to really get you freed up a lot more. I hope that's a good wow and not a bad wow. Fletcher, I see you there in the chat. Travis, will you show them how to make a copy real quick? I know sometimes people forget how to do that. Anything that we give you guys is 100% yours. You just need to go to File, make a copy, name it whatever the heck you want to name it to find it later. And then it's yours. You can make any edits to it that you want. You're not hurting our copy at all. Then it's yours. Yep. There you go. Great question, Fletcher. And it's gonna, yeah, I see your comment. You go, this is what I thought I should do. Just thought it was too slow and not direct enough. It is time consuming. I know I gave this to a client the other day and they go, oh, great. I'm going to have to spend more time doing this in order to delegate time. And it's like, yep. Yep, that's the way it works, you know, is like, you can't just say, okay, now you do this, you know, like you've got to have it more organized than that. And so dedicate the 1 or 2 hours to do this. It's probably not going to be a one and done thing. You know, you might end up doing it a couple of times, but that's definitely where I would start, and then work with your coach to determine what could we delegate the fastest, you know, what can we start knocking off this list. Nope, you're doing good, Fletcher. Let us know if you have questions with that. What other questions or thoughts do we have? Concerns, grievances. Going once, going twice.
You said speak now or forever hold your peace.
Yes. Well, I will go into some announcements here. Haley, I see your question. Are all these documents in the RGC handbook? I'm not sure what you mean by handbook. Most of the documents that we talk about in here are in our course portal, if that's what you're thinking of. Yep, the course. Yep, that's exactly what you're thinking is the course. Almost all these things are in the course. I also just would default, when you're meeting with your coach is going to grab what you need during that meeting and they're going to put it on the agenda and give it to you. So nobody has to like go through the course like it's homework and find what you want and sort through it. In fact, I kind of discourage that because it can tend to like make people focus on things that really aren't going to solve what's directly in front of them, you know? So kind of tap into your coach as the best guide of, hey, this is what we should be looking at. This is what we should be implementing right now. But if something comes up throughout your week, throughout your month, and you're like, hey, it would be helpful if I had blank, text your coach, email your coach. We probably have it, you know, kind of like the employee handbook or write-up answer where Richard was like, oh, I should have guessed that you guys had that. You know, before you go trying to solve it on your own or looking for it, reach out to your coach. They can probably find it quicker. We probably already have it, and we'll give it to you from there. The course is more so there as just like a systems bank, you know. I hope that answers your question, Haley. A couple of announcements. I know that Robert Redmond sent out an email. It may have not gotten to all of you yet, but to all of our current clients, one of the announcements there is that next week we're going to be having another, we can call it workshop presentation. We're going to have a group coaching call just like we have it every single Thursday, 9 a.m. Central. But what we're going to be kind of centering that group call around is your pipeline to profit. So this is more so covering how to get the most out of your leads, how to get the biggest return of your investment with the advertising that you're doing. You know, from that first initial phone call, how you can make the most out of those leads, get them booked to an appointment, how to manage that well. And so Robert Redmond's going to be leading that call. Again, it's going to be happening like a normal group call, 9 a.m. Central Time, Thursday. I think that was the main thing that he wanted to communicate. Also, we introduced 2 new employees. One of them's here on this call today, Alex Tyson. He's getting trained to be a coach here at Redmond Growth. He's got his first couple of clients on the board. And you'll see him in some of your calls with your coach because he's shadowing and learning. So just wanted to introduce you, Alex. And then we also have a new marketing director. Her name's Claire. Some of you will be meeting with her as well, but we are really building out our internal marketing team. So we're very excited to bring her on as well. Again, I'm just kind of recapping what was in that email that Robert sent out to you guys. If you have any questions, feel free to respond to that or reach out to your coach. But would love to see you guys on that call next Thursday. And then monthly, after this call next Thursday, we're going to be sending out a poll each month where you guys can vote on what you feel like the most valuable topic would be for that month, for that one special group call. We're also going to give you guys the opportunity to just say, to if we aren't suggesting it, for you to suggest what you think would be the most valuable to you for us to talk about. So once you guys looking out for that email, go ahead and start thinking about it. But unless we have any, do we have any thoughts, questions? Feeling good about it? Okay. Well, Alex, I'm going to let you close out this group call if you're in a position to do so.
Absolutely. All right, guys. So how we turn on, please everyone turn on their cameras. Yep. Again, Damon, I know whenever it's time to close, you turn your camera on. So how we kind of do it here at Redmond Growth is we do 1, 2, 3 growth. It's kind of like a football huddle. So I'll start, I guess it's 3, 2, 1, but I'll start us off here. If everyone's ready. All right, ready? 3, 2, 1, growth.
Growth. Happy spring break, guys.
Yep.
Enjoy the nice weather.
Thank you.
Bye.